Hey everybody, welcome to Destiny Has No Secrets, a Legend of the Five Rings cast about all things Legend of the Five Rings. This week we will be going over some cast updates, some of the new things and changes I'm making to the channel, and as well as to the cast and what to expect. We're also going to go over the latest news dump from Fantasy Flight Games. Um, and we will go over. Oh, we will. Sorry about that. We will go over clan loyalty and ask and go talk about clan loyalty. First, I want to give a shout out to all the new L5R podcasts and vidcasts going on. I think it's really great that in just a few short weeks, there's so much excitement over the game and so much content. I've always really enjoyed playing in a game that has had a lot of online content, a lot of and a really active community, and I'm really hopeful that this energy keeps going in the future. So, with that out of the way, so go straight to our announcements. Facebook. So we have a Facebook page. We're at Destiny Has No Secrets. You can search us on Facebook, or you could Facebook me at L5R Destiny Cast. We also have a new email, which is L5R Destiny Cast at gmail.com. You can submit your questions and comments. We're also changing our YouTube channel. This is kind of the bigger piece of change news that's going on with this channel. Is we're streaming on my personal channel, Spoonfunk, but in order to not have other content that I may release clutter up or conflict, the communities, I figured it'd be easier to switch it over to a channel earlier than later. Also to kind of keep it easy for people searching on YouTube to search out channels for L5R content. But our new channel is L5R Destiny Cast, and the channel you're watching it on now and going forward. I'll also try to see about getting the old videos over. I'm not quite that adept with YouTube. I'm not sure quite how to do all that kind of stuff yet. But I'll definitely, if I can salvage the old content and put it over here so people can watch it with little confusion. And also, those people who are subbed to my personal channel currently who watched last week and the week before that, it would be sub the new channel. I'll be posting a video for those people who are not watching the cast or maybe might be wondering what's going on, informing everybody just so we can work it out. I'm sorry for the confusion on all that. I just figured it'd be easier going forward, and better do it earlier than later. Also, recording this audio, so our on audio. So we'll be posting the audio content as a podcast to SoundCloud, and once I have the content to post, then I'll put that up here. So we're trying this out, and if there's no hiccups or anything like that, I'll be throwing up the podcast on SoundCloud soon. So look forward to that. Um, the reason why we're doing these different types of distribution is to try to fit everybody's preferences. So when this stream will be posted to my YouTube channel, the L5R Destiny Cast YouTube channel, as a full vid. So if people want to watch the entire thing or portion of the missed, if my stream drops or whatever, they can, and or see the post show QA chit chat, they can. But for those people who just want to view specific topics, I'll also be editing, or I'm going to be attempting to edit this and post them up as separate topics. So, yeah, so for people who are not interested in watching the full hour and a half spiel, they can watch a specific segment, which is more like a half an hour or something like that. Whatever might suit their tastes, as it were. And for those people who are taking just a commute and don't have, who want to listen to something audio or want to download something, I'll be posting this to SoundCloud as an audio format. So that's just mostly just so I can get a lot, so I could fit everybody's tastes. So we don't have to be if you don't want to or can't sit down on a Friday night and watch the stream, then there you go. So, all right. So we are also the format. So I'm playing around with the format as I go forward. This is a pretty much a learning experience for me. So, I'm going to be making changes, little changes here and there. Some big changes, some little. 3 segments for the show, I'm thinking, for today. And going forward, we're going to try to do this, to stick to this general framework. We're going to have cast news and updates, sort of what I've been doing if, I don't have anything else going on. And then we're going to go on to any news, L5R news and updates. And that's, because they should be sticking to a weekly news dump, hopefully. If going by their past releases, they usually tend to do that. So we'll be covering that on the episode, and then we're going to have a main topic for each show, which will range depending on what's going on. So this week it's clan loyalty, for instance. We're going to talk about that. And then afterwards, for the people who are streaming or watching the full cast on YouTube, we'll have a post show afterwards for the streamers where answer questions and talk about things until I turn into a pumpkin, as it were. Um, okay, so I got a lot of great feedback so far. I just want to say, by the way, and one of the things I got asked about the most was a co-host. I first started doing this as a whim. I just kind of decided, hey, I should post something online. Why not? Let's stream. And from there, I was like, I want to do this again. Maybe I should commit myself and call myself a podcast or something. So that's what I did. And I would love to have a co-host. I just, my meta, since I played last, which was in Ivory, has completely died. And so even though I still keep in touch with the people who are part of it, their schedules are a little hectic right now, and they're not able to sit down with me. When I'm able to sit down, I'm restricted in the amount of time I can get where I can have silence, not be surrounded by the buzz of my normal life. So, timing is a little bit of an issue with the people in my local meta. That being said, though, if I'm open to having a co-host. I would certainly this next week. That's gonna be my top priority. Is finding seeing about a co-host and learning, all the technical mumbo jumbo that I have to do to get a co-host on here, like how to use Skype or whatever, figuring that kind of stuff out. So, but if you go ahead and hit me up if you think you want to be a co-host or try it out, I'll certainly look into it. I'm not promising anything, but I'd certainly like to have another voice so I don't have to vamp for like an hour and a half uh, straight. It could be a little weird, just talking by myself sometimes. So, corrections last episode. Last episode made a couple mistakes. That's fine. But here I am correcting them. I said that Soju, Baishi Shoju, was a Junshin in the old canon. He was not. He had a lot of personality, a lot of his personality that he kept hidden from everybody. Notably, he had physical disabilities that he kept hidden because everybody, thought he was a physically fit person, but he had some sort of, he had a limp and one of his arms was almost useless. So, uh, but yeah, I don't know where I got that. I just was misremembering the canon. I also said Matsuhiro, the ninja from the old canon, was a member of the Scorpion, or referred to him as a member of the Scorpion, which he wasn't. He was a Colat agent. And I got Aramoro mixed up with Aramasu. So, or Aramasu mixed up with Aramoro. It was Baishi Aramoro who was the primary agent for Kachiko, not Aramasu. Aramasu was his, I think, child, like his son or grandson, one of the two. So there you go, some corrections. And quick note, finally, about pronouncing me pronouncing names and other Rokugani words, or Japanese words rather. So I will attempt to pronounce things correctly, but expect me to butcher it. Pretty much when I was playing the game, normally, I make nicknames for everybody, you know. So I don't, so I don't have to pronounce things. Like for instance, Hida Casada, for the correct pronunciation there, was the duck. That's what we called him, and so forth. I've never really been able to. I always struggled with the pronunciation. It's a pretty awkward thing, but I'll certainly make an attempt to pronounce things and refrain from using, and inside baseball nicknames or whatever going forward. Just if you go ahead and feel free to correct me in private message or whatever. Uh, and I'll try to get them correct. This is sort of a learning thing for me. So, but I'll definitely make an active attempt to pronounce things correctly going forward. So, okay. So our news dump this week from Fantasy Flight Games was titled "Conflicts of Rokugan," and in it we learned about the conflict phase, and we also learned about two new phases, the fate and regrouping phases. With the conflict phase, they're going to, yeah, we learned a couple particularly new things, but first going into the new phases, the fate phase, we learned so you have your dynasty phase, your honor draw phase, your conflict phase in which you fight battles, and then you go into your fate phase. Now, your fate phase is when any characters who have no fate on them are discarded, and if they do have a fate on them, they lose one fate token. So that was something that we pretty much knew before, and we kind of by association have figured it would be its own phase or a part of an upkeep phase like this. But we also learned the new thing that we learned about the fate phase was that you place a fate on any unclaimed rings. So during conflict phase, you choose a rings when you're fighting battles or fighting conflicts rather, to claim effects, right? And after the conflict phase, there may be some unclaimed rings that weren't used to fight in conflicts or claimed by opponents or yourself for that matter. These unclaimed rings gain one fate during the fate phase. And the next time somebody uses or goes to fight a conflict and declares that ring, they will gain that fate token. So this is interesting. I like this mechanic. Um, but to be honest, I think at this level, it's kind of getting a little next level. Like a little, there's like a lot of decision points. This game is going to be pretty hard. Um, at least the learning curve for this game, I think, is going to be pretty steep. It looks like because you already have your dynasty phase, how to bring out guys, when you should bring out guys, how many fate tokens you should play on the guy, because that's how long he sticks around for. Then there's conflicts and the Temple of Battle, which has always been a big decision point in L5R, and is, I would say, probably gotten a little more so to a degree. And now you have not only that, but you have what type of claim effects from these rings that you want to use, and because they can affect your opponent too. And now you have this on top of it, so you're adding an economy interest for fighting. Yes, okay, I don't want to claim the void ring if I'm the last one declaring a conflict. Um, so next turn I can claim it and get the initiative and claim it and get the money, for whatever. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that this can be. And certainly we see that they previewed some dragon cards, which I'll go over one of them in a minute. But Dragon's going to be playing very heavily into this mechanic. So it remains to be seen whether or not it's going to be very straightforward, but it seems like there's going to be a lot of thinking. It's a great mechanic. My head's gonna hurt. I can already feel it pounding after 7 hours of playing this in a tournament. So, or 8 hours or whatever the time would be. So, yeah. The next phase we learn about is the regroup phase. You during that, this is the after the fate phase, you go to the regroup and you unbow all your characters. So you ready them, I believe is the term they're using, and then you discard any unwanted cards in your province, right? So and this is interesting because there was some debate and questions that I had about whether or not holdings would stick around, be like regions, and just stick into your province, and you wouldn't be able to remove them unless the province was broken, or what would happen to cards in the province, because the province isn't going away, and they said they would still refill. So, what happens when a province breaks? And this kind of answers a lot of those questions now. So you can discard holdings and unwanted cards, face up or otherwise, from your province to refill them, and furthermore, when you are in a conflict, the cards that are in the province, like if there's a holding or a face-up card or whatever, then it goes away, right? We'll get a little bit more. The conflict is more the meat of this news thing, but I think that's really good, and I think you'll actually see a little bit more holdings than I originally anticipated. Because I mean, I was thinking, okay, maybe it'll be like 3 to 6, at the extreme high end, 6 holdings, but maybe there'll be actually a little bit more because it looks like there's a little bit more flexibility um, with what you can bring out in some of the cards that they've revealed to us. You can flip cards over. You can flip cards over there in their face down in your province during the dynasty phase. Plus, on top of that, now you can discard unwanted holdings if you don't need it. So you flip it, you use its ability. You don't need it anymore. You get rid of it, refill it for the next turn. I think that's really great, and it will bring a lot of interesting decisions when building decks, depending on what type of effects that we see for the holdings. Going on, so the main meat of the article was about conflict. We already knew the general structure for conflict. So the idea is that the person with initiative begins and they choose a conflict to they choose whether or not to attack, and choose who to attack. And then when they're choosing this, they choose a ring, and that ring has an associated effect for the winner of the battle. All right, whether it be bowing a guy with no fate on him, or drawing a card, or forcing your opponent to discard a card, so forth and etc. Uh, this didn't really. It expanded a little bit on it. And particularly, I I don't believe it really stated in the previous article, like the fact you were limited to one military and one political, but I'm pretty sure that's the case here, is that you get one military, one political, which is interesting in its own right because the ability to swing twice for military not being an option means that you have to you have to account for political um, conditions. It's as a matter of defense, but also as a matter of aggression, because you're kind of denying yourself the ability to um, take advantage. There's an opportunity cost if you're not including guys with the ability to fight politically, which means that like clans like Lion are kind of going to be a little handicapped, I would imagine, because they're going to be missing out on one entire attack that they can be launching uh, during their during their phase. So yeah, they can win that military thing, and they may even be able to include cards to defend against it, but not being able to attack, that's another province that that's going to really make their tempo interesting, different from before, certainly, and interesting in regards to other clans and how they do things. I think clans that will be able to fight in military as well as politicals, like Dragon, for instance, uh, will be a lot stronger overall, because they'll be able to keep up. They'll be taking advantage of that ability to aggress on their attack on their opponent every turn. So we learn a little bit more about honored and dishonored states in this news dump. We see one of the honored cards. So there's these mini cards that come there, cards smaller than the normal card size, and they are statuses essentially. So we see the honored one in this, and it says when your character is discarded, the controlling player I believe it's controlling player, but the character's owner gets an honor, which I looked at that and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's insane. So you have clans like Crane, which are probably assumedly are going to be wanting to being able to honor their characters a lot, right? Just like Scorpion will be able to dishonor people a lot. And all right, so they're going to throw out guys. They're going to be attacking, right? In political, at least political combats, if not being able to attack in military combats with their Daidoji or Daidoji. And you're going to be faced with the decision of whether or not to remove these guys to win the battle. And there's a lot of removal cards, but every time I do that, I'm going to be accelerating your win condition. Now, that doesn't in the old card game that was the kind of the case when I attacked the Crane player. When I attacked the Crane player, I made the decision. You would wait after they crossed 30 honor, because back in the day you used to win the turn win if you began the turn with 40. Um, as soon as they crossed 30, though, you would wait 2 turns, because if you attacked into them when they were over 30, then they were going to for sure be able to gain 5 honor during a combat, right? And then they were going to, it was going to go to their turn. They're going to bring out their guys, and then they're going to win. Or, there was this moment where you basically had to hold back because you didn't want to accelerate their win condition. Now what they're doing is they're making the most common thing that I'm assuming, this is an assumption, but I think it's a pretty good assumption, that Crane is going to be able to do, right, which is honor their guys. Okay, you remove the guy in a defense or an attack, and now you're accelerating their win condition. So yeah, that's I mean, it's only in the honor effect that we see is 1. So I mean, I'm assuming that's doesn't change. That's like 1 across the board if you're honored. That there isn't a way to, but there probably will be card effects that play off of honored guys dying. They gain more honor, etc. But yeah, that's pretty strong. I think just as a basic mechanic, that's pretty strong. For especially for honor players. Now, for that doesn't really change too much with the dishonor. I mean, because they also lose honor when they leave play, or I believe it's unhonor is the wording, because we don't actually see the dishonored card yet. But they, that was the kind of the case in the old game too. Like in the old game, when you lost a guy, you lost his personal honor in or his personal honor attribute in honor, right? In family honor. So, um, but still, yeah. So we also learned that the states are conferred by effect. So it's not automatically taken for granted that your guy's honored or dishonored, or honored when he enters play. And it used to be all people who weren't dishonored were honorable by default. Now that will actually be an effect that you place on the guy. So yeah, that's pretty good. I like what they're doing with the honored and dishonored. Like again, honor is playing a role in every single decision that you make, regardless of whether or not it's for an honor condition or a dishonor condition. If you're attacking into your opponent, even if they're playing a military deck, you're going to be giving them honor, essentially, if they're honored. And if your guys are dishonored, you'll be losing honor, right? Even if they're not playing Scorpion, that's still going to be a decision. The next thing we learn is about the Imperial Favor. So the Imperial Favor is quite a bit different. In the old game, it used to be this: if you had the highest honor, then you can spend an action to gain it, and then you can discard the favor to do different little effects like draw cards and things. In this, at the end of your conflict phase, you take all your readied guys, all your unbowed guys, and add up their glory, and plus any unclaimed or any claimed rings that you have. So if you won 2 battles and you have 2 of these claimed rings out there, then you would add those together, and the person with the highest gains Imperial Favor. Now, when they get the Imperial Favor, they choose whether they want it for military, political reasons. For military, It adds a +1 to your military skill, all your guys' military skill for the next turn while you possess it, and for political, it's +1 to everybody's political skill while you possess it. So that is pretty huge. It's not as strong as it was, or it's not strong in the same way that it was, because in the old edition you could use for drawing cards or removing a guy from battle. So it's a little different, but it creates these sort of like watershed moments. So you're going to be playing your game, I imagine. You're going to sit down, you're going to plan your game, you're going to say, okay, I'm going to, do get to this point within 3 turns, right? And you're going to play to that. And then once you've reached the turn before that, right? You're going to try to gain the Imperial favor. You're going to get these bonus because each point of military skill is essentially a fate that you're saving. Or not each point, but every 2 points, I think. There was a article, by the way, as a side thing, that was posted to the Reddit by I don't remember the name of the author, but about the breakdown of costs, what we've seen so far in personalities versus military or versus skill points, and what basically that is equal to. While and so I mean, there's these the Imperial favor is essentially giving you fate that you can spend elsewhere. So guys who are ready, who are able to be readied, are going to be extremely potent in a couple ways. One, because you can attack with them and then ready them to gain the favor, right? And then next turn, you can get essentially more force with that guy, right, than you wouldn't normally get, right? Plus, on top of that, he has the ability to ready himself. Bowing itself is going to be a big effect. We see a couple cards that bow people during battles already, which bowing, for those of you who don't know, is the way you use or tap or exhaust your guy, uh, like similar to kneeling in Game of Thrones. So that's yeah, I really like what they're doing with this here because, again, this is playing a turn ahead type of mentality. You need to see where your battle is going to go and create those moments, right? And then next turn push in and go for the win essentially. So my overall impression of the article, there's a lot to discuss with the article, but I figured since so many people were discussing it, I just wanted to give a couple of my particular points. I think it's very much like Game of Thrones. Which is not a bad thing. I love Game of Thrones. I think it's a great game, and it has a lot of good stuff, and it's to be expected because they're going from the same designers. They're all pulling. It's FFG's had this evolution of games and thought you could see since Game of Thrones. They've had this thinking, and they've pretty much used what was good out of other games to improve the games that they're releasing, which I think they're doing that with this. It's not a replica. It's similar enough that I like it, and but it also they're using what's good out of Game of Thrones, which was heavily based off of L5R. It should be pointed out. It seems pretty heavily based. It has a lot of similarities to the old CCG. That it gives you, uh, it fixes a lot of the issues, and they're taking the good things that they've learned, right? So I don't mind that there's similarities by any means. It's just you know is what it is. So I think starting to plan, yeah. So planning in this game is going to be a big deal, and it's going to be a huge skill to be the ability to be able to flip your cards on your first or second dynasty phase and go, okay, what's going to happen 2 to 3 turns from now? What could happen 2 to 3 turns from now, and plan out your turns accordingly. Or being flexible while you're doing it because you have to respond to your opponent. But that's going to be a huge skill in this is the ability to go, okay, well, I'm going to, what's he have? What do I have? At the beginning of your dynasty phase before you've even purchased anything, and then plan out how you're going to purchase your guys, what you're going to draw, how you're going to go into conflict, what they could be holding in their hand, and what they're going to do during the conflict phase, right? To the fate phase. Is that going to give them tempo for the next game? Are they going to gain the favor potentially? Are they going to gain this? Are the unclaimed fate rings going to that they would want for the next turn going to gain fate, and is that going to increase their tempo? So that's it's going to be a big deal, and people who are at the top tables are definitely going to have my admiration because of the sheer amount of thinking that goes into this game already is pretty astounding. It's going to be definitely a lot of skill to be good at this game. So I'm probably going to be horrible at it. Just letting you know right now. So that brings us to one of the cards. I had a particular pro- concern with one of the cards that they released. There's a lot of great cards, and this card is by no exception. I like the card. So the card is a Togashi Initiate. It's a Dragon Clan personality, and he's one fate, one military skill, one political skill, two glory, monk tattooed, and he has an action. While this character is attacking, spend one fate to an unclaimed ring. Honor this character. Now, before I get started, my concern, like I said, this is a great personality. I really like this guy. He's an awesome. He's strong, very strong. My concern comes in with his action. In case you didn't catch that, the wording on his action is while this character is attacking, spend one fate to an unclaimed ring. Spend one fate to an unclaimed ring. As soon as I read this, I saw it. Like, th- this may be proper English. I'm not sure. I'm not an English professor, but it's definitely awkward wording, and it's very concerning to me. I don't have a. It's not a big deal in and of itself. Like the card, it's very insignificant. Like this one particular card is an insignificant issue, but it's very concerning to me because lately they've been having FFG Fantasy Flight Games has been having these templating issues and having wording issues, not printing certain like words like when effects end, like do they last for the turn or do they um, misprinting art on some things. Like in Netrunner they had two cards with the same art, they printed like literally the same piece of art, and I think they're going to do a great job with this set. But if this better be like the only instance that this happens. This is I really don't see this wording just doesn't make I don't see how this stuff can happen. What person reads this card spend one fate to an unclaimed ring and doesn't see that? It obviously got missed, right? It should be a cost, spend one fate. Place one fate on an unclaimed ring, right? You have a cost, you have an effect. It's very clear. And then going forward, right, whenever they're printing effects that are similar to this, they have a template that they can use. This is not a new thing. This Magic has been doing this for years. It's a kind of a basic, I would assume, a basic thing. There is obviously some sort of issue that still they haven't fixed yet, and it's a little distressing. I think the introductory set is going to be great? Yeah, I do. Um, but going into the game, that's like down the road, there could be some misprint similar to this where and it causes all kinds of problems because it does. It can cause some huge issues. And plus, on top of that, is this like I want to see them have enough care and concern to proofread their products before they put them into play. To have proper templating. I don't want them to run into issues. And I get it, they're a big company. They have to they're juggling a lot of balls here. There's a lot of people wearing a lot of hats. They have to do. They're handing Star Wars license. That can't be easy. That's a huge thing, huge responsibility, and that's got to be totally absorbing a lot of their energy. On top of that, they have this release. This is the first IP that they own. Well, I wouldn't say the first IP, but they have an IP that they own outright that they could do a lot with. That they're really excited might get be really by the judging of the online community and the excitement, be pretty popular. I just these little issues make a big deal or are a big deal, and I really um, I hope they rectify it. I know that they can do it. They make a fantastic product, but This kind of thing does not give me inspire confidence that there won't be these sort of issues going into this game, and that at some point it's going to become a pretty big issue. So, all right, that ran over. Other than that, yeah, the Dragon Clan. This guy and the other personality or character that we saw was pretty amazing. I'll go over all the cards probably during when we start doing the clan breakdowns. They're probably gonna start releasing, this clan. What's this clan about? In their news dumps, they did that with Game of Thrones. So I'll go over all the cards at that point, so we can, go over what options there are and stuff like that. But yeah, so that's the conflict and fate and regroup phases. Overall, I think it's some good stuff. Next week they're going to be going into the conflict more in depth, the conflict phase more in depth. And for right now, it's enough. I like learning about the Imperial favor and stuff. Overall, it's a lot of good stuff, a lot of great stuff so far. So, clan loyalty. Okay, so we have there's a lot of discussion going on about clan loyalty in the community right now. And one of the things that you do when you describe the L5R community and L5R as a game is what makes it unique is the idea of clan loyalty as it applies in L5R. So I felt it was probably pertinent to discuss clan loyalty. It's a pretty big focus in the game. It's a pretty big aspect of the L5R community. And for those new players, it's kind of a foreign concept, really. The idea is so and for old players, this is a concept that could be changing somewhat, and so I felt it was really relevant to discuss these kind of things. So, what does it mean? Well, clan loyalty, how I'm defining clan loyalty here, is that it refers to the predisposition to support a clan in the storytelling, gameplay, and in the community. Um, I feel that's a pretty broad and accurate description. But really, what it is it's fanaticism. So when you get an L5R, you pick your clan, right? That's generally the way it's been in the CCG, and it's become a very an element that is a part of it now. The part of the community, part of the game, is picking your faction, supporting your faction. The idea that you generally play that faction. A lot of at the beginning it was the unique thing about the game was the storyline prizes, and that contributed to this evolution, this creation of this clan loyalty, this culture of clan loyalty that we see in or saw in the CCG. Um, and it was kind of the product of the interactions between the communities and the storyline prizes. They would interact. The storyline prizes would be geared around like what's going to happen to this clan, what's going to happen to this clan. Is this which clan is going to win the overall storyline? That was the big Day of Thunder thing. Is Lion Clan won, and so Kodo Totori became the emperor. He was the Lion Clan. Although I would protest that he was a Ronin at the time. This is saying, right? Um, I'm not getting on anti Totori there, but like there's distinguished. So, but anyway, like that sort of thing has fueled this concept where you want to see your clan do well in the storyline, because in the old CCG it also reflected back onto the cards too. They would have game effects, in the uh, Race for the Throne storyline arc, where they were basically seeing who would become emperor, would what clan the emperor or empress would be from, and the dragon ended up winning the gigantic mega game that was played over tournaments and everything. Everybody contributed, and Dragon won, and Dragon Ueko, the first, became Empress of Rokugan. And in the game, the Dragon Clan started with Imperial Favor as a mechanic. So I don't know if that's going to be happening here, but that's kind of the where this sort of thing came from. And it also, when the role-playing books came out for the tabletop RPG, as well as people started playing in the live-action games, there was these LARPs that were going on during conventions. It became a big deal. People got involved in the role-playing game, and because it expanded upon these clans in a lot of ways that the you couldn't do in the fictions, like what their cultures was, like little tiny things. They became important. This a lot of where I learned a lot of my storyline was the RPG books, the early RPG books. Um, Not only because they broke down the Day of Thunder storyline really well for me, but also because they went into these things. There was these passages in the back of the book about each personality, and my favorite personality right from the start was Matsugohai because of the art. Because he's a freaking lion with a trident. That's awesome. And then in the fluff of the book, they had his bio. This is what he's about. And there's a lot of characters that I learned about uh, during this time, while reading these books, that I became very passionate for and identified with it even to a degree. That I really became excited about. And it's also like people would gravitate towards the play styles generally, and they want to play these certain types of decks. So typically in L5R community, people have the concept that your decks that clan loyalty represents what you play in a tournament and most of the time in casual play. Like when you sit down, you're the line player or you're the scorpion player. At your local meta or your local group. And when you go to a tournament, you play your clan, right? And this is not all everybody ubiquitously. There are a fair amount, a good number of people who don't do clan loyalty. You just play what they want to play, right? And there's no begrudging that at all. I'm just saying that when people think of clan loyalty, that's what they think about. So that's what it is. Now, I have the assertion that's great and it's good for the game, and I think most L5R players would agree with this. I don't know, but it's good for the game because to me it's always created a sense of investment beyond just playing a game. Like I play games of these natures like card games or role playing games because I like socializing with people. It's a great way to meet people in a lot of cases, and I think it's a testament to a game when you can be in a room full of people that in your normal life you would have nothing to do with, right? You have nothing in common with any of these people pretty much, but you're all great friends, right? And not only that, but you're all going there to to engage with this thing in a way that is not just simply sitting down and playing a card game or going and winning a tournament or trying to win a tournament, right? Yes, there's the competitiveness. Clan competitiveness certainly exists. Like Lion players want to dominate the meta or what. I'm not saying that there's any particular. I can't come up with a name off the top of my head, but there is that investment for the competitiveness that clan loyalty does feed into. That when the Scorpions players are in the meta that I've seen weren't doing so well, they all got together and they group thought their way. They sat there and they thought of the ways to make their clan better in the meta, right? And the card game, right, as far as winning. But to me, it's more about creating these events that are just more than playing a card game, that where people can go and they can walk away going, that was awesome. Even if they're at the bottom of the table, but also like if they want to go and cosplay or do poetry contests, like L5R in the old card game had these honor contests, right? You would have your normal card tournament, right? And then you would have this honor contest, and they range from anything from writing haiku to cosplay to music. I think I heard of one where they had people go up there and actually perform something. Maybe I don't know, like I could be misremembering things, but like they would have these alternative contests where people would go and get involved, or LARPs. They would have LARPs. While the tournament was going on, they would have your winter court or whatever at bigger events or cons. And then they also have things like a Gen Con. You're probably, if you're going to Gen Con, there's clan dinners. I've never been to one. I've never been to a Gen Con, but these the entire clan gets together and has dinner, and they socialize as a community, which I think is really good because most card games and most games don't generally offer that. That's what L5R offers. That is what L5R is. to people. Is it's more than a card game. It's kind of an experience. It's with a card game, with a pretty awesome card game. So, but also it's good because it clan loyalty. People had top of clan prices in tournaments, and that fed into that sort of idea that we would find out who was the best lion player, who was the best mantis player, who was the best scorpion player, and that we give prizes out for them. I don't know if the storyline kits will have the prize support will be there for top of clan. I fully expect it to be there though. Like, I mean, I would be surprised if organizers didn't do some sort of top of clan, even if it was come up with something themselves. It's definitely one of the things I think that made tournaments amazing. It was like I always told people when they go to tournaments, he's like, you can go to tournament not win and still win, and that's not in a bad way. I mean, like everybody came home from the tournament, right? The event, if feeling accomplished in some way. Whether that be winning the entire shebang, to top of clan prizes, to middle of the road, or whether you have these other sort of associated prizes at events. And clan loyalty fed into that a lot. Is the idea that you have an investment into your clan, right? Um, it also is a great way to teach new players. It's great because when you're sitting down with a particular play style with other card games, you may not have access to other players, or you don't typically. So it's like, okay, if I play Control, right, and I sit down, I'm a new player, I want to learn how to play Control, play Scorpion, for instance. I'll have another Scorpion player show me. It's like, oh, this is what you do. This is how you can learn from me. And there's forums where you can go on and get tips and have other people help you out with the decks because they've invested interest in you doing well in the tournaments, right? If you are getting into the game and you're a new player but you're good at card games, they help you out with the card game. Then you go and win a tournament. They just won. Right. I use Scorpion a lot because Scorpion have a very tight knit community, very large and tight knit community. Not that others do too. I just feel like they're the ones I always think about when I think of the large communities out there. But there's also online communities that help you, with the game and with getting to events and those kind of things. Your clanmates are kind of there to help you out. It's kind of a support network of people that you can initially meet, even though you may meet other people. Like after a while, you get to know like pretty much everybody. Hopefully in your local meta or these tournaments, you get to know a lot of people, regardless of their clan. But initially, it gives you somebody to reach out to for help when you're a new player. So there are some bad things about clan loyalty, and let's try to go over these without being too contentious. So bitching is one of the bad things about clan. Not all clans are equal at all times in the card game. Sometimes a clan or clans have do very poorly because of design, right? Because something's overpowered, or because they're not seeing the right tools, right? Or maybe they're designed for like the designer is trying to shove a play style, like a theme that the community is not really engaged with. Um, Using the Scorpion reference, that was one of the cases that there was a point where all the Scorpion players played defensive Dishonor. They played control game, a tight control game. They liked that from the previous arc, Samurai arc and Celestial. They were like, where's defensive Dishonor? And they kept on getting a lot of military cards, and they were like, why are you giving us military? And where's our Dishonor? There was a miscommunication there. I don't know exactly why or what. There's no judgment on that part, but you know, that led to a lot of complaining, and I've been victim of it. I've been done it too. When there's been points, especially when I went 4 years basically without a stronghold, or at least an honorable stronghold in which I can use my guys. You'll hear me bitch about that all the time. And clan loyalty feeds into that. You get this investment into the clan, and then your clan starts doing poorly because what you view is a very arbitrary decision, even though it's, design. Some of those things happen during design, or sometimes in design you want some things to not be dominant at other points. There's a sort of everybody gets their limelight, sort of philosophy where things will rise and fall, and that's not going to change with the LCG, right? LCG, will be different in a lot of ways, but there will be clans that will be dominant at one time and other clans that won't. And that sense of investment, right, leads to a lot of complaining. Either rightfully or wrongfully, it just does. And so with that, it creates kind of a toxic environment a little bit, especially online, because people love complaining online. Hey, I guess it's what it's for, right? So that's one of the negative things. One of the other negative things is taking clan rivalries, taking basically your loyalty a little farther than it needs to be. Um, I joke with like Crane players, for instance, in my local group. When they sit down across from me, I'm like Death of the Crane. Because I'm a Lion Clan player, we have this feud, this vendetta, but it's a joke, right? There's an understanding there that I'm not really being serious. Some people take it pretty far though. I've seen some people like just downright like mistreat a person because of what clan they decided to play. Especially, if that person's a new person, that's pretty. There's no excuse for you being a jackass. And there is a point. This is a fictional game, and you are not role playing. You may go and do LARP and role play. Go ahead and act in character. Go ahead and act that way in character if that's what you want to do, in a role playing game. But yeah, there's no excuse for being a jackass. So, and some people just take it a little farther than they need to, right? Uh, the other one of the negative things, one of the worst negative things, and I think one of the negative things that I think we need to be a little bit more conscious of going forward into this new game is skewing perspectives for newer players about other clans and clan loyalty, right? Or clan loyalty, right? So if I play Lion and a new player comes to me and goes, "Oh, tell me about these different clans," I'm not going to go and tell them, "Well, cranes suck," because they do, right? Because they don't. They don't suck. They're a perfectly valid clan. They may not be my favorite clan, right? Which they're not. They're middle of the road. I like Crane. I don't dislike them actively as a mechanical standpoint, but the Crane. So you should present each clan in its best light, right? Is what I'm saying. You shouldn't just because your fictional clan faction doesn't like another faction, right? Or even if you don't like the mechanics of that clan, you shouldn't misrepresent that clan, right? You should basically, it's like, okay, this is what this clan does, because you don't necessarily play the same way that he does, right? He'll, let him make his own decision, or him, or he or she, I should say, let them make their own decisions, and don't necessarily try skewing the perspective. That just turns people off once they realize, because sooner or later they'll realize, or they'll be like, hey, this faction's actually pretty awesome. I love the Crane. I love defensive dishonor or whatever, or defensive honor rockets or whatever. You know what I mean? And then they'll look at you and be like, oh, whatever. And not only that, but it'll turn people off from clan loyalty. They'll be like, oh, I just don't want to be loyal to a clan if that's what it means, right? You're giving this perspective about clan loyalty, one of the cooler parts of the game, cooler aspects of the game. Uh, so yeah, I mean, we need to be aware of what we're presenting to new players, and not to feed them our own biases, and let them approach the game from a fresh perspective, and and come into the game on their own terms. So you can, not only will the community be better for it, but if it's in your local meta, you'll be better for it. Now you have a Crane player or a Scorpion player or whatever. Even if it's another one on top of a dozen, it doesn't matter. Your game has just gotten better because that person's there, right? So clicks is the last thing that I would like to point out, and this is one of the things us old L5R players need to be aware of, is that there's there's a sense of entitlement and ownership for a rightful reason. I mean, we've played this game for a long time. We have a lot of invested energy into it, and in a lot of ways, we're coming in and we're just picking up the old community that we left off with, right? But there's going to be a lot of new players, or there's let me say that everybody's going to be a new player to this game. It's a new storyline. It's a entirely new game design, right? Even though it has similar things to the old game, and there's a lot to the old game that they're trying to keep for nostalgia's sake. It's a new game. So clan loyalty and clicks, clan loyalty tends to feed clicks. If you have and clicks form in different reasons other than clan loyalty. But clan loyalty in this game, if oh well, I'm already used to rapporting with these other Scorpion players, right? So this new Scorpion player comes in, he doesn't want to do defensive dishonor. I'm not saying defensive dishonor is the way to go or whatever, but you get what I'm saying, I hope. Um, this new strategy, I want to, hey, I want to try honor rocketing with Scorpion. I mean, that could be possible in this game. Who knows, right? Those clicks and those sort of set-in mentalities, right? We need to be aware of, especially with a clan focus, because again, it reflects badly on not just the entire community, but in the end, it kind of hurts you, because you don't expand your group. You don't have these diverse and huge game. We won't all want this game to be successful, I would think, and that means being open-minded and not and knowing when to check your clan loyalty, as it were, at the door, um, and be open-minded to newcomers into your clan as well as other clans. So. All right, so loyalty in the new L5R. A lot of people have been asking about how clan loyalty will fit into L5R. I think they have the best interest. They've been pushing clan loyalty. The FFG is they understand that it's important to the game, and they want to definitely push that. Now, a lot of that is going to be dependent upon how they implement storyline, right? And I think, at least in my personal opinion, I think that storyline, how they engage with their storyline and storyline prizes will dictate a lot of this. But I think that there's a couple things that are opportunities, I should say, going into this on how clan loyalty can get better and how it can change with this kind of expansion of the community, right? That exists currently. So clan loyalty, I think in the new game will be a spectrum, to to use a joke. So it's clan loyalty is going to because people are going to be getting this as a whole box. They're going to be receiving all 7 factions at once. They're going to be able to experiment a lot, right? And this is good for a number of reasons. One is it'll give people a taste, even if they don't particularly play that faction, with different playstyles, right? They'll be encouraged to play different playstyles and that gives them a broader grasp on the game mechanics, right? When I went to tournaments, I typically had, even though I played Lion, and that I always played Lion at tournaments, I always had a deck for each clan, at least one deck for each clan built, because I needed to understand those clans, right? And I think people would be incentivized to do that, right? And that means that like clan at your whether it's at your casual nights or the tournaments will be a little bit more fluid. People might show up, your Lion players might show up with a Dragon deck, because I'm thinking about Dragon as an ult, because Dragon look really strong, and they look pretty awesome. But like you're gonna see at your I think it's gonna be more at the casual nights, clan loyalty, because depending on how they implement the storyline, but they're definitely going to implement some things, so the bigger storylines, I think people are going to be incentivized to play their clan a lot more. I would be surprised if they kind of went with a narrow winner takes all type of situation, at least at the big Kotais and the big national tournaments and things like that. Store championships, because they're going to have those, are going to be who knows what they're going to do with those. So at some level, I think there's going to be a breakdown where you're going to have people are going to be fluid up to a point, and then they're going to go, okay, well, I'm going to go play my clan now, right, at this event, or I won't, because that's obviously an option. I think because of the clan loyalty, though, you're going to see a stronger meta than other LCGs. So let's say I'm going to state that 70% of a meta is made up of good cards, like strong cards, the best choices in this game. This card is just out and out better, right, than others, and that feeds into this deck, which becomes this better, quote unquote, better deck, right? But with the multiple win conditions, with the all the different mechanics that they're putting in that give you agency, right? I think that will be the power level between overpowered it's in a lot of ways putting a check on overpowered cards. I'm not saying that they're going to not be overpowered cards. There certainly is, but but you have ways in the mechanics, in the bread and butter baked into the game that have the ability to play around like some of the power levels that give you options, right? But going back to original, like 70% of a meta is made up of good cards. 30%, in my belief, is made up of psychology, right? What are people going to take? People are going to take the strongest deck, right? Well, in this game, that's not necessarily true. I think psychology, clan loyalty as a part of the psychology is important in a meta because people will have other interests other than maybe winning. If there's a top of the clan prize, or maybe if there's a prize for just showing up in the most scorpions that show up get some sort of storyline effect. The most lions get the most effect. For participating gives you some sort of prize that completely throws off the meta, right? Because now you got to look at, okay, what kind of incentives are they giving out for these? Are there more unicorn players, right? That was a big deal in one Kotai that I went to, right? We all expected. I can't remember what the dominant deck of the day was. Scorpion military deck, and everybody took that. And a bunch of unicorns showed up and dark horsed it. Like, I mean, because unicorn was pretty strong. They weren't like, I wouldn't say they were the best deck, but they were strong because there was a lot of unicorn players who just showed up and trounced people, and they ended up winning the tournament because of that. So decks, the psychology part, I think will play a stronger force and will make the meta stronger than the LCGs because the other LCGs have been dominated purely, mostly by the good decks. Like I speak of Netrunner in particular, but also Game of Thrones. I think not knowing the full detail, but Lannister, from what I understand, was really uh, strong in the Game of Thrones meta when the game relaunched, the 2.0 came out. The deck, the like strong decks in those things determine everything, and deck diversity goes down because of that, right? Because people don't have an attachment to playing, Wayland, one of the factions from Netrunner, or they don't, particularly. It's like, okay, well, I could play Anarchs, or I could play, which I really love and are dominant, but I really love Shaper, and I really want to take my Exile deck, which is actually probably a bad reference, but I really want to take a Shaper. That doesn't really come into play in those other LCGs. And this it will, depending on, again, power level. But I think that will be different in this too because of the nature of the design, right? So, like I said, you could come in, your incentives, the way you play, can all dictate who brings what, and that will change what decks I think you'll see, quote unquote, are the best. Uh, if they make storyline, they incentivize storyline in a certain way, right? They will see those positive effects of that. I'm certain, right? We'll see more diversity in the meta, but they have the 20 years essentially of learning, right, from experiments. So AEG, and before that it was Wizards, and then before that it was FRPG, which is basically AEG. Um, had to like ran this huge storyline, and they made a lot of mess ups, but they also did a lot of good. There was good and bad, and they have that 20 years of experience to look back on, to really look at the incentives, how they affected people, and they have. I'm certain they're in contact or they're having a contact with at least the people who own the game. John Zinser. I think they know. I think Steve Horvath and John Zinser know each other or something, right? So they've undoubtedly had conversations, many long conversations about how interact with the storyline, what the perspectives of the people who ran it, and not only that, but had their own conversations internally about what are the problems, what are the pluses and minuses, and they're really going after this. And that from everything that they've told us, they kind of, I don't want to say they recognize the negative of it, but they definitely recognize that investment into the engagement is something that is necessary for the game. So, but it's going to be done differently, right? Which says to me that they recognize that there is something without absolutely stating it. They want to do it in their own particular way for their own particular reasons with their own particular effects. So, final thoughts for people: don't be don't be a dick. Will Wheaton's rule about clan loyalty. Getting people into your clan is awesome. If people choose another clan, let them choose another clan. If they don't want to do clan loyalty, don't bother them about it. Make people respect people make their own choices, right? So if people are clan loyal, and going and be like, yeah, cool, let's see if we can make your deck the best we can or whatever. If they aren't, then go for it. Hey, that's fine. You know, like it's all about having fun with the game and having and enjoying the community. So not everybody's going to be into it, but for those people who aren't a part of it, recognize it's a valuable part of the game and that's necessary, and try not to belittle. Like if you're getting into the game from like a highly competitive game like Magic or something, and you go clan loyalty, why would I be loyal to blue? You know, don't make fun of clan loyalty, please, because it's a very important part of this game. It is, what makes this game better than other games. And you may not agree with it, and be like, oh, why would you ever take something that was weaker because you like it? Like, why wouldn't you take the best deck? Well, because there's other reasons, to go to an event other than winning. And L5R, at least I would hope that they continue to support it, but L5R like definitely supports that sort of mentality. When you go to an event, there's other things other than just winning, right? And understand your bias, right, when explaining to new players, and understand, where to check loyalty. Don't take it too extreme. It's not life, dude. Seriously. Um, so that's all for those who are watching the stream. We're going to do the post show here in a minute, but for those who are watching this on recording, thanks for watching. You can visit my channel, L5R Destiny Cast, and please like or sub the video. You can also find us on Facebook at Destiny Has No Secrets, and or you can Facebook me at L5R Destiny Cast. We can also receive your email, queries, and comments at L5RDestinyCast@gmail.com. So thanks for watching, and see you next week. So hold on. Let me pop open the chat here. All right. All right. Are we still on? Did I crash or anything? Okay. Woo! We made it. Last week I dropped. All right. So post show. So what did everybody think? How many people we got here? 4 people. Hey, I got 4 people. Lucky. Ah. So what do you guys want to talk about? Hey, it was under an hour too, or it was just a little over an hour. Anybody still there? Any questions about anything, about the new format, about what I talked about clan loyalty, anything at all? Any new questions from new players or new 5R people? Dinner 1 year. Although they solve a proper shoot like a lion. Spider is the best clan. Uh, oh, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. I really do appreciate it. It's hard to know. Spider is still the best. Yeah, all right. So, Spider is not my favorite clan. And not because of the anything involving Spider. I feel Spider was it was like a horrible execution, right? I felt the concept of the Spider was amazing, like the core. You're talking the theme core stuff, but it just kind of came out really poorly, from what I understood of it. I mean, I wasn't a diehard fanatic. That being said, I do think Spider is the more than likely going to be seeing, or some form of Spider meets Colat Bloodspeaker faction, right? Shadowlands faction will be returning into the game. I think that there's a strong indication of that, but that's speculation. Does anybody want to be a co-host? I was talking to people on Discord about this for a while, about being a co-host. The guy from Troll5R was was talking to me about it. Unless that's you. Cut my mic on right now. Yeah. I just don't understand how, like, I have to actually sit down and figure all that stuff out. Like, I am completely technical, like computer stupid. Like, and not only that, but I have gremlins. If I touch technology, it breaks. Oh, it is you. Okay, yeah, I figure it as like it's like oh, okay. Then I put together the. Oh, that's awesome. I really enjoy. I like your guys' show. I think it's awesome that you just like completely like voice your opinion uncensored. I can't help but get self-conscious whenever I'm being contentious. Like, I suppose it's like, when they got shoehorned and they became hated on. Yeah, I think that, yeah, a lot of people got started hating on Spider because of the fanaticism. And from what I saw, like there was a division within the Spider. There's the people who wanted one thing. Then there was the competitive players, the people who were winning the tournaments who wanted a different thing from what it seemed. Right now, like I said, I wasn't involved in those communities, albeit, but one of my friends was, and it was, from what I understand of what was going on from an outsider's perspective. And then not only that, but the what they got was completely different from what the storyline team produced, basically. So everybody just ended up being fucking angry about the spider, and then that ramped up the toxicity of negativity that happened because of the I mean rightfully because everybody's just kind of pissed off at this point. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I don't really care about people listening to me. I just like I don't know. I just don't want to come off as a jerk. But then again, like I don't think you come off as a jerk. I think you come off as very blunt. Oh yeah. Hey, wait. If you pre-ordered pre-copies, are you going to Gen Con? And if you can you ninja shop for me, please? I will pay you back. Yeah. But I think there really is a strong indication that Spider's going to come back. Like they're pointing fingers, and really I think it's a good thing if they do like bring back a fact because they're going to bring back some sort of conspiracy faction, right? Yeah, I know, right? There's going to be a lot of people. They're probably going to sell out in the first day. I do not feel good for those people who end up like getting in late or who just can't get in line early or whatever. Like there's only I mean they better like really bring a lot of product on hand. Like it really kind of upsets me that they're not releasing it. I mean, they should just you would think they would just like release it to stores as well, like even a week late and then so people could order from their site because I believe you can buy things from their site. Um, well, that's true of the spider with the Spider Clan. So, the Spider Clan or the Shadowlands don't fit in the mechanics, but the Spider are still human beings, or at least were. Some of the undead were, right? So they still fall in the spectrum, even though they're corrupt and they're dishonorable, like they don't follow dishonor, right? They have to abide by honor if they're going to be infiltrating, or being a part of Rokugani society, and they're human beings. So there's always that conflict of like, do they follow the path of the spider or do they follow Rokugani, order? Well, that depends. That's assuming that the Shadowlands is still the same. The Shadowlands taint still works the same. Because I actually had a lot of I had a lot of complaints about the way they did Shadowlands. They made it like Shadowlands taint was more of a disease. It's like Ebola or something, right? Than actual like you know a corruption of the disharmony, right? Because like if you look at a lot of narrative themes, right, within uh, like Japanese literature, Japanese culture, right, and then compare it to like L5R, the way it was implemented, like the Shadowlands corruption, like they were trying to do that. It just got I don't know why, but like I think as soon as Wizards got it, they end up becoming just like an infection, like a disease. Like you get it, and then oh, like I got the flu. I guess I'm in Shadowlands now. Yeah, that's what like I think that's why like you look at the rogue Shinseism, right? That's where the big strong indication. And then the next thing it tells me that there's going to be you have the disharmony in the elements. We know that Fulang exists, and the Fulang myth I guess would sort of exist, right? Meaning he was a part of the Shadowlands. He fell separate from the heavens, right? So there's the elements of that are there, but um, whether or not he is working with the Shadowlands, like he's just corrupted, like he fell in and is tortured and is trying to reclaim. So he's Shadowlands tainted, not with the Shadowlands, trying to take over the Empire like the Colette or the Bloodspeakers were, right? But without, um, but without like working for Demon Lords or whatever they had him at the end. I stopped paying attention at the end there, like after Celestial Edition. I was like, I'm done with the fiction. I can't even read you now. It hurts my brain. So, but I just think there's a lot of space there they could explore, and they definitely have need, right, for a big bad guy other than mindless freak zombies and demons, right? Yeah, I mean, so he could be definitely the master in this story as well. Um, or who knows? We don't even know if Jikoku exists. We know nothing. We know nothing, Jon Snow. Yeah, so that I mean, there's a lot that we don't know, honestly. That's why I love rampantly speculating because anything's possible at this point because we don't know. As time goes on, it's going to get a little disappointing because you can speculate less and less. But I think if you like, they're going to have at least one additional faction. If you look at Game of Thrones, right? For instance, they have 8 factions. The distribution in the packs fits eight factions, right? So each faction in Game of Thrones gets 2 cards per cycle, and then there's 4 cards for neutral cards, right? So we have a need for 2 cards per cycle, 2 plots or 2 provinces, right? And then one conflict and one neutral fake card each, right? One holding or whatever, right? I know there's so much info. And yeah, is it anesthesia? I'm gonna call you Cat. Okay, so Cat, it seems that they are like setting up for corruption on each way, and I think that was one of the big mistakes with the original storyline right off the bat is one, they didn't play during the clan coup. They just started off with the clan wars, right? And they really they paid lip service to the clan coup with the one set or the clan coup scroll set because they were doing their little mini releases or whatever they were. Um, and two, they banished an entire clan. They not only did that once, they did it twice, right? They did okay. Scorpion has no personalities, right? For Jade, and then in during Clan War, they they were a faction and that came in the expansion, right? So I think that they definitely are setting up for corruption or infiltrators or to present those. There's some questions this week about the five. There's five cards in the set that we don't know what they are because they're not conflict cards and they're not dynasty cards. At least as far as we can tell, there's some sort of like there's five. I don't know what the translation was. It's something involving like calling them personalities or some weird translating thing that was going on because it was originally leaked, I believe, in Spanish, and there was some debate about what it meant because they translated it over or something. But anyway, like they have these five cards, and they could be the biggest. I think the strongest insinuation is that they're like senseis or something like that, right? That was the one thing. Also, like I think they could be multiplayer cards. I mean, it could be quite possible, and they could just be lying to us on the box set or something. I don't know, but I think Sensei cards like attachments that you make that determine your alliances because they have no real way of. They haven't told us how you put in out of faction cards into your dynasty deck or if that's possible. Yeah, so I like the fact the game is like tied. Everything is the honor, and I don't think a bland faction. I would rather them not have Shadowlands at all, right, than try to shoehorn them in with some random oddball mechanic that doesn't fit the theme, right? I think that if they present Spider in a certain way, they can fit that theme. They can fit them into the honor dynamic that we're seeing here. But I don't that is the core of the game, and that's one of the things I like the most about this current version of the game. So, well, out of clan cards, but yeah, so they have the influence, right? Right, and then it has the little bamboo things the conflict cards, the fake cards, right? It's conflict, yeah, it's conflict cards, right? But they have on the dynasty cards, they don't have any bamboo symbols, right? So, like, can you like how does that work? Do you have like a set number of cards that you have like the like 11 or 12, that 11 or 12 is 11 or 12 points worth of conflict cards and 11 or 12 dynasty cards that you can just throw in or yeah, it's yeah, who knows. I think that they're kind of doing if I was to make just rampant speculation, right, about what would be done just by logic, I think that they're going to have um an alliance wheel mechanic for dynasty involvement for dynasty cards, and that is going to determine what faction you can take from. And there's two reasons why I say this. One if you look in the fiction, they kind of make a play up on pretty much most of the clans on who they're aligned to, right? Like the unicorn just fostered an alliance with the lion. The lion just fostered an alliance, or are strong allies right now with the scorpion, right? Because they hate the crane, right? And so forth. There's a couple clans that they don't have that with, but that doesn't mean that there isn't an alliance system at stake, right? So there's an easy way you could trace allegiances, right? So that what makes me think that there might be some sort of alliance mechanic that determine, and also makes smart. It's a smart way of doing design because it limits like so they just previewed the pacifism card, right? The attachment that attaches to an opposing player and prevents them from engaging in conflict. Well, that is like a strong card by I mean it may not be strong when by the time a release comes around, but right now, as of right now, with what we've seen, that's pretty fucking strong, right? Just to deny, and because there's some pretty badass, especially that Ronin that can go up to like seven, what is it, 7 force or 6 force or something, right? Um, Potentially in one combat, it's just like wow, that's pretty strong, right? So, like, they need to be able to handicap people just taking that, like everybody aligning with Phoenix at this point just to get that one card, right? You know? Yeah. I I like speculating. I think it's awesome. It's like rampant conspiracies. Right? But to continue with the alliance thing, also it's like, it would make sense for the storyline because that would be one of the bigger points in the storyline engagement is like choose who you want to be aligned with, right? Because they can switch that around. Also, it makes sense for the Shadowlands, like if they're doing an infiltrator, like we were talking about, like where they're gearing towards like infiltrators instead of having an outright faction, right? Because they can align with anybody, right? I don't know. TC alluded to a crane card that bows for a turn. Oh, that just straight out bows you? Like bows one of your guys? Yeah, that'd be crazy. Yeah, like well, if they do, I think that they have to have a Shadowlands element in the game, mechanically speaking. Whether or not it's a faction or not, I think that they will have at least some sort of infiltrator or personalities within the clans. Like they'll create a Scorpion personality who has Shadowlands trait because he's doing his thing, even if they don't have a separate faction. But I have a strong suspicion that they're going to have this cult sort of conspiracy, quote unquote, play on the spider faction. I think they are going to have a faction. And that's just my conspiracy, though. Political red tape. Yeah. Yeah. So far, I'm really pleased about everything. The only thing like I'm really concerned about is the Dragon Clan personality. Right. That actually, as insignificant as that one thing is, that upsets me insanely. Like insanely upsets me. Um, because it's just like, all right, are we gonna see the same thing out of this? Really? Especially an introductory set, right? I really hope that's the only thing, like the only little thing in that set. I hope that they go with Fu Ling instead of Daigatsu, or not Fu Ling, but a better version of Yogo Jinzo. Like they really flesh out Yogo Jinzo as a character, because like Yogo Jinzo to me needing any story time really, other than I am a zombie. But his personality in the role playing books, at least in the Scorpion book, was really awesome because he was like you could see why he was pissed, right? Why he opened the scroll. He's like, "Fuck you! You just murdered my clan." Right? Yeah, it doesn't matter they try to take over the empire. We won't talk about that. But like there was a little bit more. Daigatsu was I don't know. I just got tired of seeing him after a while. It's like, oh, here he comes again. Yeah. Oh, I hope that they don't go like with the Scorpion clan being Colat or something. Like they learn your lessons, folks. right? That's all I'm gonna say. Banishing an entire clan or having the entire clan come down with some horrible incident, right, that forces you to narratively wipe out, ban, censor, live with shame, right, for the entire clan, pisses the community off, right? Not only that, but it forces you to explain why you're printing so many fucking personalities for these guys, right? So like having the crab lose the wall again, it's just annoying. Like, come on, can they ever do their fucking job? You know, like, do we really have to see the crab fail over and over again? Right? Is that the the best that we can come up with? Like Scorpion taking over the Empire, getting entirely banished, then getting blamed and getting entirely banished, right? That was horrible, right? The Unicorn losing half their clan because of Colat. Like, that was a dumb idea. Like, who decided that the entire clan? Was it John Wick? I don't know. Like, but it was a stupid idea. Because now you have to get rid of. Oh, there's no more Shinjo, so there's pretty much like the one family we talked about the most during the entire thing. Yeah, no. Okay, now we're gonna have to explain the moto a little bit more than 2 pages. Yeah, I don't think they should be a great clan. I never made sense to me. I think they should have always been that outsider, like that accepted outsider. They should have never been a great clan. So it kind of made sense that they were banished to the colonies and they weren't allowed in Rakugan. Um, at least the ones with Shadowlands Taint. That absolutely made sense. But I think that they should have been that accepted outsider. Like there's like this concept within I want to say Shintoism, but like of accepting darkness and making a place for it. There like darkness exists, dark things happen, right? Evil is a part of the nature of the universe, and as have a place for it, right? Don't necessarily worship it, because it's evil, right? Or negative things, but it is. You have to coexist with it to some degree. Yeah, yeah, that was definitely shoehorned, right? It's like, okay, either don't exist or you do. So the entire engagement is follow the storyline, what the storyline lead, because I have no qualms about the fact that it was literally the storyline person, like the lead storyline editor, writer, whatever. Sean Carmen at the time, I think was right. It was no doubt his choice to say nope. You're either going to become a great clan or you're not going to be here at all. So like this was entirely ignoring the community. And the community, like half the community, wanted to be that rogue renegade faction, from what I understand, right? Or at least the competitive players. That's what they. I mean, talking to like I spoke. I don't know Ornatov that great deal. I've only talked to him a little bit, right? But like that was the one conversation we had. I was like, oh hey, you online, in the Spider Clan forums, and we were chit chatted about it for a little bit, but um, like at least from that perspective, there was definitely like a lot of confusion within the clan, and then that kind of just nobody listened, and it got unresolved, and that's the reason why every time you bring it up, you see like 30 threads, right, of complaining or bitching. Yeah, and I got that. Like, yeah, they should have been like I would have liked to see a happy medium, not being a great clan, being on the outside, being an accepted outsider, right? This thing exists. It's not entirely against the empire. It's not for the empire, but it has to exist. It's part of the nature. And if we don't, then you have these gigantic demon armies, right? Or these huge demon armies which can come ransack us. So every time they come ransack us, you know, who do we go to? Every time one of our daimyos becomes corrupted by Shadowlands Taint, where do we send him? Right? Like those kind of things. If we need to deal with some mysterious Shadowlands curse, who do we go to? I mean, like, I felt that that at least had a space, that there was a space for that within the narrative. It just got mixed executed. Yeah, I got the feel he cared about the spider. I got the impression that he cared about what happened to the Spider Clan. Like as far as at least I mean that like talking like we had like a 5 minute conversation, and that was like probably like the three times I've spoken to him, max. You know, like so there's not much of an impression I had, but um you know, to determine whether or not. But I got the impression he liked really he had a vested interest, and by all I think he traveled to a shit ton of tournaments. But yeah, it did. I personally want them to like. I want to see the Shadowlands as like a raid deck if they do have them as a faction. Like that's what I would like. I would like to see the Naga back. That's what if there's one faction I want to see back, it's Naga. Cause damn, dude, like those people are hurting. Like the people who loved Naga, like I mean, yeah, every like there was Ratlings and then there was ninjas and Toturi's army and all these other factions, but the Naga players loved the Naga. They like had a special obsession with Naga, right? They were diehard Naga players, and they just got ripped out. And then they go, "Oh, here's the Mantis." It's like, no, dude. But they became Mantis players, and then they got the Mantis ripped out away from them in this edition. So, like, there's all those players who are, because like most of the Mantis player, like a lot of Mantis players were former Naga players, right? And they won a storyline prize to bring back Naga. Like, I mean, I know they're not really redeeming anything from the old storyline, but I mean, if there was one thing they should redeem, it should be that at least, because that was a big Gen Con prize from my understanding. Mole Rat. I hate it, Ratling. Ratlings can fucking die of fire. I hate that faction. I hate the fact it became a faction. It was annoying. I liked them in there in the fluff for the role playing game, and I thought they were awesome. Like the one personality, because it was cool, a little Ratling flavor. Oh, that's cool. But then they like made them a sensei, right? And everybody took him as Scorpion, and the deck was fucking broken, right? Because you can bring out Kachiko and she could literally cancel actions by discarding cards and then bowing the shit out of everybody and then murderizing you because it was like a what's the magic uh, where they gain cumulative bonus based on who's out. They had a bunch of cards that did that. I can't remember the magic. It starts with a T, I think. Anyway. Yeah, Samurai Edition was awesome. That's when I came back to the game. I left after Gold, pretty much. I played like Diamond a little bit, and then I came back during Samurai. I was like, "Ooh, this game is so much better." Oh my god, they fixed so many things. And then like my favorite um edition for design, just pure design, I think was probably Celestial. I think like most of the design in Celestial was amazing. Right? The Plague War environment, right? Yeah, Breeder was the dominant deck, but like there was so much deck diversity in the Breeder or the Plague War environment. From the Plague War to the end of that year, like deck diversity was amazing. You can literally bring anything and like expect to do reasonably well. I did yes, I liked Breeder Edition because yes, Breeder was annoying, but there was a lot of great design. There's a lot. I mean, like the first half of it, like half the factions were really good, right? For mechanics, like playing, you didn't feel bad for playing them. But then the last half of it really redeemed it because there was so many decks that were good, right, and fun to play. And that was like I played my Deathseeker deck, and I loved playing Breeder because I'd sit down and I would just I'd murder the shit out of you, bring it on, every time, right? Because like Breeder, um, got its rocks off from getting its guys killed, and I would blow up my dudes routinely, right, and gain honor for them. right? Yeah, I heard Emperor's. I stopped playing just after Emperor's Edition started. I think I dropped out for like the first set, if I remember right. And because not because of I didn't like the game, because of just the way it went. And I didn't get back until Ivory. Right, I bought Ivory Edition and played a little bit of Ivory. I heard Emperor Edition had its quirks, to say the least. It was pretty wrong, like the all holding decks that attacked people or something, like the Fudo decks or whatever. I don't know. I heard some horror stories, but Emperor Edition seemed pretty cool. I think they like had some pretty cool design. They were really onto it with giving each faction like access to win conditions, like making it to where you can actually do a Dishonor Crab or an Honor Crab deck, or a I really like deck diversity. I hate it when you have one deck that's dominating everything. And yeah, I know Breeder was powerful and did dominate a lot of things, but you could still play other things against it. You didn't. It wasn't like an auto loss. Like Go. Yeah, the Ancestor deck was fun. Like that was pretty fun. Um, like just creating dudes. Like when won't design learn that creating free cards is not a great idea. I'm gonna spawn lots of ancestors and yeah, that was a pretty fun deck. I wasn't too uh I played it a little bit. I was mostly out on my heroes, my Death Seekers. I wanted my Death Seekers back because I think I was like an Emperor's. They had the ancestor deck. I played that for a hot second, and then Ivory Edition came around. I think they made a big theme in that, didn't they? Yeah. Like Ninja always will have a sour taste in my mouth because I took my deck. The one time I've made the cut, I notoriously always end up on the bubble if I'm doing well, right? I'm either at the bottom of the stack, like complete last table, right, with all the scrubs, me being a scrub, and or like I'm on the bubble, right, because I happen to have a deck that I can pilot. um, but like the one time I actually made it into the cut was like I got outed by a ninja deck. I was playing my Lion Tacticians back when Lion like wasn't the hotness like he usually was. It was pretty bad actually. So, but I actually got in there and then I got controlled out because he just I'm gonna battle all your guys and then I'm gonna bring out Yokatsu and just like go to town. It's pretty wrong. I always kick myself for that though because I left home like a deck that was like completely ridiculous. That could I to this day I was like I probably could have won that tournament if I would have brought my other deck, my Phoenix deck, but clan loyalty, right? Hey, tied it in with the show. So yeah. Looking over the things. We had steady peak of people. Cool. Steady 4 people in the stream. That's cool. Yeah. It's pretty fun. This week I gotta find a co-host, and then I gotta edit things, learn how to edit things, so I can post it as podcasts too. Which doesn't look too entirely hard. Where did you get your uh audio tracks from? Like your music from? Because I need some sort of music or something for if I'm on a podcast, like intro music or something. Like I search royalty-free music, but I always end up finding crap sites for it. I think I just fail at searching. Hold on. Yeah. I just search. I'm probably gonna. Everybody wants to do. Everybody does like Asian stuff. I'm not. I'm gonna put like rock music. Oh, okay. I didn't think about that. Yeah, I'll just have to. I'll probably have to create the SoundCloud tonight, and then try to edit it and throw it up real quick. And then I'll start my search for a co-host. Cause that'd be fun. I just like have to find somebody who's willing. This is like literally the only day I could do it, in between 7 and 9, like that I could do a stream or any sort of streaming or any sort of recording like this, for sure. Now I could during the week, like I have little random moments I could sit down and record like a little 10-minute something, or if I'm sitting down playing a game once the, they get put it on Octagon, I could probably do that, but um, by and far like for recording a podcast. You should. I think you can get 30 seconds out of it without being a copyright violation. I think that's fair use. Yeah, I want metal, right? That's what I want. Whenever I think of Legend of the Five Rings, I think of metal. I should have, was it J-pop or whatever? Like the was it the Japanese heavy metal that they have? Was it J-pop? I can't remember. What's the name of that stuff? Yeah, thank you. Well, I'll be here next week. And yeah, I'll be talking about we're going to the conflict phase, and I'm gonna try to do strategy next week, which is very frightening for me because it should be for you as well. Like I'm going to corrupt young minds into playing badly, right? So I'm gonna try a strategy segment. Baby metal, yeah, baby metal. Yeah, I'm gonna do some. I'm gonna find some royalty-free baby. Let's do a search for that. We could do royalty-free baby metal. Royalty-free baby metal. See, this is what you get for watching this stream. You get all this awesome conversation. Stock royalty free, available prices, free listening videos. Can't find anything. Baby metal icon. Yeah, I'll find something. That'd be awesome. Or even for Lady Baby. Is that like a band? Yeah, I'll figure something out. Like there used to be this really awesome. Uh, does anybody know anybody? Does anybody know the people who made Roku Cast? Right? It was like there was like 3 podcasts I think in the entire history of L5R that I'm aware of. And one of like the podcast Roku Cast was this old one of the podcasts, and they had this awesome theme music. I just wanted to find out if it was royalty free. I want to find it, right? Because it was amazing, like intro. It was like sort of like this. I don't want to say dumpster. It was like this jazzy indie rock intro thing, right? It's like as soon as I started like thinking about what to do for a podcast music, like that came to mind. But I can't find the website anymore. And they every time I search Roku Cast, I get the stupid device, the streaming device. So, Lady Baby. Uh, so what clan are you? So you're playing Sparks. You're playing Scorpion, right? Yeah. Can you like hit him up or get me in contact with him? I emailed one of them once upon a time, but I tried looking in my email folder. I couldn't find it, so I think my email ate it. But yeah, I want to get in call hold of this, so I'd be like, hey, use the theme music from this stuff. Can I use the theme music? Because I thought the song was awesome. Scorpion is strong. Like they look like because there's going to be an intense amount of control, right? Cards like as far as removal cards, because you have what blackmail, you have the stupid assassination card, like shit's gonna die in this game, and I think Scorpion are gonna be really good at making things die in like horrible, nasty ways. They're the mean faction as far as control-y type of style, and I think that's gonna continue in the game. What's gonna be scary is how many Scorpion players I think they're gonna be. I think the Scorpion community is gonna blow up, like just be huge, like because of just how many just how popular they are. I mean, they've always been really popular as a faction. Um, I mean, even look at the Discord. I mean, what you have like they're the most people in Discord. So, I mean, yeah. Yeah, I'm a Lion player. My alt is I'm thinking my alt though is going to be Dragon because I really like. Yeah, I know. Well, they have access to it. They have access to assassination, and then they have blackmail. Plus, they have the ability to reduce event cost, which is huge in this game. I would think, right? Yeah, and Dragon look really interesting, but like it remains to be seen whether or not they'll be any good. I think they're like the two personalities they previewed are pretty good. Like lack of English, like aside, right? Or a little rant aside, I think the Dragon like so far the two personalities we've seen are pretty awesome, and I guess their cards look pretty decent. They got oh no, we got the other guy, the Doom Shikenja guy that comes out for a turn, which is pretty. And we got the person who says you can't defend with more than one person if she's attacking alone, which is awesome. The Prodigy. Yeah, I think Dragon are going to be pretty awesome. I mean, they may. I don't know if they'll be strong, but because they'll probably be sort of like hard to learn. Easy to master or whatever. Like I think they'll be difficult. There's a lot of nuance to the using the rings. Like that's very next. It's like I said, it's very next level like type stuff. Like there's so many mechanics that are gonna hurt my head, right? I mean that's a good thing. I just think it's gonna be a painful tournament experience. Yeah, Miyamoto Prodigy that is like ridiculous right there. Um, Especially if you have a way of getting initial or like depending on who gets to play first action. Like if they have like sneak attack type effect in the game, because you can just walk in, sneak attack, use some sort of effect to remove their guy or whatever like that, and then pump, pump, pump or whatever. I'd imagine that would be a strategy. Oh yeah, and it meant defeat. Put the sword in Game of Thrones if you I don't know if you play it or not. Like it was is a strong card, and I admit defeat. Or is it admit defeat? I'm thinking of the fallen one, the other one, the crab one. Admit defeat. Let's see here. I should probably like do a card one. Oh, well, I was waiting till the clans. I'm gonna go over all the cards that they have access to, so I don't have to waste too much time. But yeah, it's getting long. I'm probably gonna turn into a pumpkin here in a little bit. Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, just walk in, bow your dude. They lose their guy. Winning. I especially think that's really good for hit and run tactic. Like I think that'll be a better tactic for Dragon because like um Dragon can like swing in, right? Kill one of their guys or remove one of their guys, bow them, win a battle, right? Do some stuff, right? Keep them from attacking you. And then while they're slowly building this momentum, right? And then drop a big guy out or attachments or whatever, have a big hand, and then swing in and then wreck house with their gigantic Dragon Clan champion or tattooed men or whatever like that. Like or tons of attachments or whatever they have, right? So they're like I see them like kind of looking for that moment, looking for that. That's kind of like everybody the overall strategy, but I think Dragon's going to play very heavily into like a specific type of play style that bides its time and then explodes in your face, right? Whereas like Lion will be about like aggression, consistent aggression until they make that big swing, or Unicorn will be about blitzing you right away, right? Crane will be about attacking you politically, obviously, but yeah, I don't have the cards memorized yet. Like I've looked at them a bunch, I just haven't had them memorized. I think it's my fear. I see more misprints or bad templating. The Honorable Pumpkin. Yeah, my nickname is not the Honorable Pumpkin. It's a good nickname, but not mine. Right. Anyway, turn it into a pumpkin. So, uh, thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. And if you guys feedback or anything like that, I totally look forward to it. If any of you guys want to be a co-host, hey, hit me up. Might happen. I'm gonna try. There's a couple people in the local area. I'm gonna talk to see if I can get. But most there's so many like I don't know where anybody is or their schedules or what they're doing. So yeah. Take it easy and see you on talk to me on Discord about stuff. So I should be on later tonight. And thanks for watching, guys. Later.